right, here we go. We're on our way to the Titans Monday night. And then the hapless Jets next week. I try to be realistic, but it's hard for me to even find ways that we can lose these games. We can. Titans, I think, will give us more a challenge than the Jets. But it looks like 11-3 going into that Dallas, Ravens, and Bills game to set up what this season's about. And, people on the downside and on the upside, they're just pulling out of their behind. Anything can happen. Play to play, game to game, week to week. Things can change like nobody's business in the NFL. Let's see. Let's start with this Monday night. So I'm going to cover some of the news going into today. Obviously, some big news with Jackson getting his extension. If you've been watching me here for some time, I'm sure you want to hear what I got to say about that. I'm going to cover it in short form in the beginning and then long form at the end. I'm going to go over some of the injuries. I got a great comment I learned something from. It was really cool. I really appreciated it. And then the backside is when I'm going to do more deep football talk, real trying to dig into the game and show Tua, Hill, and Waddle and McDaniel what they're doing in the context of history since like about 2018 when Next Gen Stats came out. And I think it would play out even longer than that. But to see really the remarkable things, what they're doing to drive this whole thing. And it's pretty clear after that. And then I'll dig into some protection understanding because I just don't think many people understand protection and blocking, and they use stats that I don't think they know what they're using, and the talk is kind of like all over the place. So I'm going to present facts and information, and you can agree, disagree, but I believe it clearly will show something, and you'll be gaining something from that. And then I'll do a deeper dive into Jackson. There's good to it, and there's not good to it, and then there's the unknown. Anybody who's telling you he's a top 5 right tackle is clueless, or they just don't understand. It's factual. I can factually show you that. I can also show you the kid's getting better. I can show you that the contract that he got is way better than some of these other guys out there. And then there is good to it, but you got to be honest. And I don't think that's really happening too much. There are some that have kind of fallen to the dark side, unfortunately. Sports journalism has become tabloid journalism. When I was a kid, my father was evil, left when I was young. I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, so I had to go wherever they went except for work. And, we'd always go to the supermarket, and you'd always, back in the 70s and the 80s, it was mostly just women going shopping, and you'd always find the women around the little rack before you pay the cashier, and they would have their tabloids, and then you hear them, did you hear what this soap opera actress said about this one, who she's dating and what hairstyle he's got, did you see what she's wearing? And my mother was like the hardcore German side, and she had nothing to do with it. My grandma was really into it, and so I would sometimes get that talk, and I hated it. I hate the panty pulling, handkerchief wringing type stuff. I played football. I went to military school. I was doing nutcrackers at 8 years old and told, stop crying, get going. If I didn't salute, I had to do push-ups. I grew up, no one was like, are you emotionally okay? It was football. It was, military school. You just, man type stuff. And then the coverage was like facts and information with a little soap opera. We all want a little soap opera. But for the most part, I grew up, it was actual journalism, which is not what we're getting today, which is sad to say. So anyway, I'm going to try to cover some real stuff today on the back end, but I'll give you the simple stuff up front. First thing, I got this great comment from this guy, Jay Hillary. I can't pronounce it. Jay. Thank you, Jay. I'm sorry I'm butchering it. I saw one of these sports shows that AVG actually broke the 21 miles per hour speed on that return. Is now the 7th in the top 10 fastest in the NFL this year. That's wild to me. That was wild to me too, brother. I did the film and I said, look how fast this guy's running. And he's being chased by a guy 5'11", 190 runs a 4.45, and he barely made up any ground. This guy's like a superhero. I didn't know it was that fast. I appreciate that comment. That is impressive. So I want to get into the injuries here quickly. It's just day one, You can't really put your foot in the ground on anything. Tyreek, he's got some things here. He's be fine, but they give him a little day rest. Tehran is a little bit more of a problem. He got the day rest, but then you're worried of all the stuff. Holland, knees, and they were saying they don't want to rush him back because they don't want to lose him for the season. So this was a little bit more serious than maybe was led on. I don't think you should bring this guy back to the Dallas game. It's too critical that he's here for that last tail end and the postseason. Baker, we know he's going to be out 3 to 4, maybe 5 weeks with the MCL thing. Robert Hunt is a little bit of a concern. I don't think you should bring him back to the Dallas game either because he was off a little over 3 weeks, and then it got re-aggravated. And so if he comes back early, it could be a thing that continues. Hamstrings are notorious, and I'm a little concerned. You might not see him at that Dallas game, and if we get him in a little too early, this could be something that knocks him out in the key portion of the season. Raheem Mostert, rest day, he's got a little bit of an ankle issue. I'm always concerned because he's an older guy. He runs like a monster, and he's had some injuries. We need him. He's big. Thankfully, Achan's back to take some of that load off. Smythe, we kind of need him. He's probably day rest, a little bit of ding-ding. He'll be back, I suppose. Kendall Lamb, the back, but they say it's just a rest. But I'm a little concerned that if his back is a little balky, it might force Tehran in. And it concerns me that Tehran, he's got all these things, and you can see his play starting to diminish. If he can't get any break, he might just have to play straight through and then degrade in the most critical point, where if Lamb is healthy, he could come in and let Tehran rest. We've seen Lamb do well. Titans are in a juggernaut, especially without Simmons. And then, obviously, the Jets are tough D, but no offense. It's a college level, mid-level college offense. It would be great to get some of these guys rest. Obviously, Holland. Baker's not going to be out. Hunt, I'd like to see him rest for 2 weeks, and Tehran as well. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. I'm not writing any checks except for on Holland, Baker, and Hunt. The rest, though, very, very interesting to see as far as tomorrow. But thankfully, we have, quote unquote, these 2 easier games. I think a Titan game is going to be a little bit more difficult, but we should be able to navigate them even with some injuries and maybe letting some of these guys rest. That Dallas game is going to all hands on deck for that Dallas game, the Ravens game, and obviously the Bills game. So I'm going to get into some more stuff here. Aldous Huxley, I think he's a total sociopath. I think the guy's an evil guy from an evil family. But I listen to everybody, whoever. But he had this great quote. It's a great quote. It's true. Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. Football is supposed to be a living game of chess, pseudo-warlike sport, a warrior sport clearly, and the coverage is not supposed to be soap opera stuff. But the game has changed, and so is the coverage. We've got stuff that is so ridiculous. Obviously, Jackson got the re-signing and the pouring. I'm sorry. They're pulling in their panties and they're wringing in a handkerchief. It's ridiculous. It's not to say this kid is a bad sign or whatever, but facts. I mean, do facts even matter? If you're in the pit, in the stock market, or you're in high business, or you're an actor, or you're in some kind of job that it costs a lot of money, if you screw up, nobody is minding your emotions. You've got to perform. This business is a performance-based business. And if you're not saying nasty stuff about the guy's family or him personally, you are supposed to evaluate. And you look at Jackson, he was drafted, 18th, 19th overall. It wasn't his fault that he was drafted there. Greer overdrafted him. Greer rushed him in, or whoever rushed him in, and it was a lot for him to bear. But 2020, he gave up 30 pressures. His efficiency, true pass set, people are now using the pass blocking efficiency. They don't even know how to use it right. True pass set blocking efficiency means that you're not being helped by screens and all this other stuff. It's like what you're doing on your own. There's some things that are not in there, like how much extra help are you getting? Is the quarterback rolling towards you or away from you, drifting towards you or away from you? But it's the closest thing in efficiency. But they don't use that. They just find the highest number and put it up there, or they just don't even know the difference. So in 2020, 30 pressures, 92 efficiency rating, true pass set. That's terrible. He moved to guard because they didn't think he could handle it, and they put Eichenberg outside, 27 pressures, 92.6 true pass set efficiency. 2002, it was abbreviated, 58. You don't know how it would have played out, but it was 93.7. That's 3 seasons that are terrible. One, not his fault because of the injury, but they didn't sign to the 5th-year option. And you get like this. I'm so damn proud of Austin Jackson. I don't know this Kevin Harlan effect is. It's so pathetic. Almost everybody in the fan base was calling him bust, and he channeled that fuel into a fire. Because he was failing. He wasn't doing his job right. Is he a bad guy? No, but it's a performance. I said ints with my accent too many times, and some guy commented that sounds ridiculous. You don't ever hear anybody say ints, especially with that stupid accent. And I'm a nobody doing this thing. It was poor. He was expected to do better. There were guys drafted around him who did much better. Do we get the same pining over Jesse Davis or Dallas Thomas or anybody else? Mike Gesicki, they called him bum when he leaves. It's such pathetic, dishonest coverage, and maybe even sometimes from the fans. This guy was poor, and this year he's doing better, but I'm going to show you why he's doing better. I'm going to show you the good and the bad. Honestly, facts. I know it don't matter. Just cry and put something on Twitter and just say whatever you want. And if somebody agrees with you, they'll just thumbs up and whatever. It's ridiculous. I'm glad we signed him in a way because now we got a guy there, and we weren't drafting somebody and developing him in 1 year. And 24 is huge, and you can push that money back in 25 and 26. So there is some good to it. The guy has been healthy all year. And if you look, Terrence Steele, who are the Steelers, who are playing in a couple of weeks, they signed him for 16.5, and he's a disaster. So there is good to it. The kid does have an upside. I've said if this kid finally develops, he's going to get better and better physically. But he's still got to grow. And the bulk of whether this was a good signing or not, we're going to know week 16, 17, 18 in the postseason. Because when I show you the actual information, you'll see how this guy is really playing. It's not terrible. But the framework with Tua, Waddle, Hill, all this stuff is lifting this protection. So I'm happy for the kid. He's a great kid. He did a great thing for his sister. Hard worker, smart. You can see, even though he cheats or whatever, he knows what he can get away with. So he's smart, and he's got the agility. There's some things he's got to grow on. Let's see how it goes. We got 3 years now to see how he continues to develop. But if he makes a bad block and we lose a playoff game, all these people that are wringing their handkerchiefs and pulling their underwear are going to be cursing him out. And it's so fraudulent. It's all so fraudulent. So good for the kid. Obviously, we got to see how it plays out, and I'll show you the information. Now, what I want to get into in a second is the historic speed and depth based over 7 years or 6 years, I think, because that's all that Next Gen Stats goes, that Tua, Hill, Waddle, and McDaniel are doing, and how speed of throw through vast amount of information, facts, sets up protection. Because I don't think, and it's hard, I understand, but I don't really think people understand blocking and protection. And I show 1,000 facts, and one guy's like, oh, PFF, says blah, blah, blah. That's not how you do it. Look at Philip Lindsay. When he came here, people were like, he's going to run for 1,000 yards a game. Look at these guys awesome. Look what he did. I said, hey, guys, look, yards before contact. Look what he had. It was like 5.6. Anybody could do it. 4.6 was crazy. I said, the guy's not that good. Oh, you know what he's talking about? He had like a couple of runs. You see, I told you. And then he's gone and nobody says nothing. It's how the stuff is generated. And it's not to say I'm right, but I know the concepts behind it are correct. And I'm going to show you in multiple ways. But this says Tua, Hill, and Waddle and McDaniel are doing phenomenal stuff. And it says that it can create a framework for Jackson to be here and to continue to develop. But he's not all pro. If everybody on the offensive line's all pro, and Hill's a possible MVP, and Tua's a possible MVP, and then Waddle's are going to be a Pro Bowler, then why do we struggle sometimes against good defenses? It doesn't make any sense. There is clearly a little something. So everything can't be beautiful and perfect and great. So before I get into that, I want to let you guys know I got a live tomorrow at 10 p.m. I'm going to dig into the Titans and the Dolphins game big time. It's hard to find stuff to say that they're gonna win, or find competitive, especially with Simmons out. But I'm gonna get into it with other stuff. We want to talk about other things, whatever. And then the next day, I'm gonna do AFC Shakedown with my man Tommy at Mafia Sports Report, and my new man Kev over at Jedi Sports Network. I'm gonna talk about last week's games and this week's games in the AFC East. So definitely join us there. So guys, I appreciate everything you do. I try to do my best to be a journalist here and not be a cheerleader. But all the likes, the subscribes, the comments, the views, you guys are keeping me in business. I love to do this. So I want to give you a shout out and a shout out to Ace Bread, my sponsor. Without the two of you, this show ain't going down. Ace Bread's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, I want to get into why Tua is so good, why Hill is so good, why Waddle is a huge accelerant, and McDaniel through a historical viewpoint to take what these guys are doing this year and look at the last couple of years, and you're going to see something very, very clear. So here's next-gen stats. Tua, time to throw, 238. Caught air yards, CAY, 6.2. Intended air yards, 7.7. Mac Jones, kind of close, but the caught air yards are dramatically less. Intended air yards are less. Obviously, the production all around is less. Trevor Lawrence, 251. Less caught air yards, around the same. Intended air yards. But each tenth of a second is a big deal. And that's almost 1.5 seconds more, 0.15 seconds more, and that's a big deal. Joe Burrow, 2.54, it's almost 0.2 of a second more, but look how dramatically the caught air yards, 4.5, intended air yards, over a yard difference, 6.5, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're at 5. So, it's 28 teams down the line, 27 teams down the line that are throwing slower. And you'll see the distance is also less as well. But Desmond Ridder, 2.65, 6'3", which is around to his range, and 8.2. But look at the difference. It's almost 0.3 seconds more, which is huge. Now, I'm going to show you that the time to throw to his release, guys, the speed of his release, it can shave 1/10, 0.2 of a second off the throw, and that's a big, big asset. Look at the kept clean, time to throw, kept clean. That means there's no pressure, 2.11. When blitzed, though, it's 2.11. They just can't really blitz him enough without getting burned. So the pressure is coming in extremely fast, and we're getting it out extremely fast. They see scrambles and throwaways. You'll see that everyone's kind of the same except for Lawrence, but those are mitigated plays based on, negative mitigations because you're forced to scramble because of the pressure and you're forced to throw away because of the pressure. Now, Mac Jones, 2.14, a little bit slow, a tad, but when blitzed, it's almost 1/10 of a second. And obviously, we saw that he's only throwing 4 yards completed, so these are all short plays. Tua's driving this ball much deeper, almost 15 feet difference, 2.5 yards almost. Trevor Lawrence kept clean, 2.23. You're getting to 0.15, which is a decent amount. But when blitzed, look at that, 2.54. That's a lot. That's almost 0.5 .4 seconds difference, and he's blitzed 28% of the time. So that protection's holding up much better than ours. Unfortunately, you see for him, you see the scrambles, there's 37, which is a market up to about 15 more negative plays. But still, it's that offensive line's holding that blitz back. Joe Burrow, you can see 2-1-2, same as Tua, but everything's shorter, intended air yards, quarter air yards. But you see when he's blitzed, it's 0.15 more. So he's blitzed more, almost 2.5% more. And they're holding off that pressure a little bit longer. And so it's saying that the blocking isn't what it might appear. Tua, Hill, Waddle, and McDaniel are offsetting it. And then you can see Desmond Riddler, time to throw, kept clean, 2.35, which is substantially higher. But then look when he's blitzed, 2.79. That's 0.68 more. You know how much extra protection that is? And he's not scrambling a lot more, 6 more times than Tua and 1 more throwaway. So he's not just running around. It's not a scrambling quarterback creating this. It's the actual protection. And this shows that Tua is carrying the protection. But let's look at it historically. You see 2020, Tom Brady, 2.45. That's in Tua's range. But again, court air yards is less. Intended air yards is less. And then Burrow's 2.55. Tua blows that away, doing much more with Hill and Waddle and McDaniel. 21. Same with Roethlisberger, but 4.4 and 6.7. Clearly, Tua is doing way more and getting out just as fast. 20. Ben Roethlisberger, again, 2.3, again, 4.6, and a little 7.1 intended air yards is better, but Tua is outpacing that. Fitzpatrick was having a darn good year. Fitzpatrick was actually outpacing Tua this year at 2.38, 6.5 at court air yards, and 7.9 intended yards. But that was a short time frame. Tua's done it now for, 13 games. Could Fitzpatrick have kept it? I don't know. It would have been interesting to see. But that's the only guy who's actually in his ballpark. Then 2019, 2.51 for Andy Dalton. Round the same the rest, but 1.5 faster. 2018, 2.55, again with Roethlisberger, 4.877. So it's in the ballpark, but again, much shorter and slower. So when you go back over this, Tua is setting something up with Hill because Hill can get that leverage, get that depth, and Tua can release it so quick. He waits for the pressure to come. At the last second, he releases it. And so all that is combining to uplift the protection. When you get a blitzed pressure rate of 2.11, that's not good. Go look at the rest of these teams. Mac Jones got a bad offensive line, 2.19. Trevor Lawrence has got a great interior, but terrible exterior because Cam Robinson's down, but still 2.54. Joe Burrow, they know we've always got problems, but still better at 2.6. And Riddler's got a good offense line, it's 2.79. Clearly, when you weigh this out, it's Tua, Hill, and Waddle raising things up. Now, time to throw. Whether you're blocking a pass or run blocking, the longer you have to do it, the more difficult it is. Time sets everything up. Look at Rodgers. He got knocked out because his tackles were told to cut because it was a quick throw, and then he held it, and then he got one pressure, and then he got Achilles broke. I don't know why I would take 340-pound guys and have them cut block, but the time is a factor inside the OC, inside the quarterback, and inside the blockers. Time is the foundation of the play, how quick it gets out, where you got to be. Time, the longer it goes, the more difficult. So I'm going to show you Christian Wirfs. Christian Wirfs, bottom is, it's 2020 to 2023. Tom Brady takes over. He gets drafted. 9th fast is a 2.57. His efficiency rating, true pressure efficiency rating, 97.5. The year after that, Tom Brady gets out faster at 2.5, which is second in the league. His play rises, his efficiency rises to 98.2. Tom Brady brings it to number 1, 2021 to 2.45. And Look at the pressures, the sacks, everything, the pressures totally drop. He has his best season, and his efficiency rating is 99.1. Then Baker comes in, falls back to 11th, and he's having his worst season yet. Most amount of pressures. Remember, the season's not over, and his efficiency rating is 95.5. Now, that's one player, but it plays out. It's not to say it's the only reason. He was a rookie year one, and a lot of things can happen. But speed of throw makes things easy. That's where the West Coast offense comes from. That's why certain guys have certain pass sets, because they know it's coming out quick. The quicker you throw it, the easier it is to protect. Now, I'm going to get into Jackson here and show you why it's good that we got him and why there could be some concern. Now, he's now graded as the 30th highest paid tackle. He's the 10th highest paid right tackle. You can see this little graphic over here. Lane Johnson's number 1. Conklin is at $15 million. He's number 9. And then you put Jackson there. And then Haverstein is 11.5. And so is McGarry, 11.5. It's not terrible. It's not a terrible price. You know who you're getting. Again, I said he could develop. But you look at Terrence Steele, 16.5. It could be a disaster. He is struggling. So there is financial reasons why you wanted to bring him in here and why you got this cap number for him, because you could push it forward. And it's not terrible because he can continue to grow. But let's look actually what he's doing this season. So here is all the top right tackles, okay? I think it's the top 12. And then Jackson's rated 43. He's down in the orange. Time to throw is the one all the way to the right with the red circle on 2.11. Now, he's got the easiest job, although Onwenu, who's a right guard who moved the right tackle, is a little bit harder, but slightly in the same ballpark. And they've got generally the same numbers. And so that could say, hey, look, Onwenu's a very talented player. Look at the efficiency rating. Look at the pressures. They're throwing very short as well. And so, maybe this could develop into something. But the speed of throw is the easiest, and it's not stellar as far as you'll see his actual true pressure efficiency. The efficiency you see here is the overall. You can see Braden Smith is 2.4, which is a little bit higher. But, you can see he does a little bit better. And so maybe in time, again, Jackson can get there. But look at all this, 2.4, 2.3, 2.35, 2.56, 2.39. These guys all have much more difficult jobs. Now, they've given up more pressures, too. You could see 20 and 22 and all that other stuff. But you got to look at the true pressure rating, efficiency rating, because what that means is he's not being schemed help. And if you look at Jackson this season on the Dolphins, he's the number 1 with the worst true pass set efficiency rating at 95.8. His pass block rating is 53.3, which is 77th in the league. It's not to kill a guy. He's still developing. But there's no way you could tell me with that he's a top 5 tackle. You could look and say he's got 2 sacks and 6 hurries, but we're the number 1 play action team in the league, which means more bodies in the way to help him out. We throw the fastest in the league, and that's what you're getting. Where, say, Robert Hunt, his job is a little easier. Hunt's got a little bit harder job out there on the edge, and you got to keep that in factor. But look at his efficiency rating, and look at how he's blocking. Look at Connor. Again, he's inside, but a lot of times he's asked to block on his own, and that help flows towards Jackson's side. And then you look at Tehran, who's injured, but he's got a 96.5 and a 65.4, which is low for him this season. But remember, he's also asked to block alone a ton. When you look at Jackson, he does get help. He does get a movement away from him with Tua. And so he's not terrible, but he's not top 5. We paid the money to lock him up so he can have some flexibility next year, and hopefully he can keep on growing. So, but you got to be realistic of what he's doing. Now, week 16, 17, 18 in the postseason, if he steps up and you see his play step up and he can block on his own, but you've got to evaluate fairly or you're going to be taken from somebody else. Tua is doing phenomenal stuff, And if you overemphasize what Jackson is doing by simply looking at the sacks allowed and pressures allowed, then you're not understanding what is going on, because it takes a lot to create protection. There's so much stuff that goes into creating protection, and you've got to analyze the whole soup. So in the end, if we're not here to evaluate, we're here to cheerlead, then everything can be whatever you want it to be. But I am trying to be a journalist, and I'm trying to accurately evaluate things. Not that I always get it right, but I do put my work in. I do present facts more than just single one-line tweets. So I hope you enjoyed the information. Whether you agree or don't agree, there is a good framework of information you can use in other areas to create your own evaluation. And that is my goal here. So anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by. Long one, deep one. But I'm trying my best here. I hope you enjoyed. Kurt saying, catch you next time. Be well. Go Fins. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.